Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Ji ayanu pakhair agale ni hao churishumme washwale. Ohai gozaimas guten morgen hola moyo privyet kaifa hal. Hare shuma chatore ahlan wa sahlan marhaba buna mucho gracias wabi bhalli kare aaya. Hoş geldin and I was Khuyamora Chibato Chi Haljod Kalimera Khairutan and a very warm welcome to everybody who's tuned into PTV World and watching World this morning. Ladies and gentlemen, I happen to be Shahzad Khan and with me, I'm really lucky I've been joined by my very well-learned colleague who happens to be Miss Hajra Satti. Hello Hajra, Assalamu alaikum, post-Eid, how are you feeling?
Walaikum assalam, thank you so much, Jazakallah khair. Alhamdulillah, Eid has been really great. So now, Shahzad, we've seen in universities and schools there's a problem of cheating, right? Yep. So there's a very interesting solution which was presented in the Philippines. So let's see that what was that solution. So a university in the Philippines asked its students to come up with their own headgear that prevented them from peeking into others' papers. Following the direction from the university, images of the students wearing anti-cheating hats went viral, sparking amusement among the netizens. Many students ended up creating homemade contraption out of the cardboard, egg boxes and other recycled material. The teacher said that she has been looking for a fun way to ensure integrity and honesty in her classes. Engineering at Baikal University College of Engineering. Yeah. The idea has been really effective.
As much as it looks like fun, ladies and gentlemen, I do believe that the few students might be struggling as well. But let me ask over here. I don't know whether I should ask this or not. But Hajra, have you ever cheated in your exam? Have you ever?
I think moving on to the very interesting news that is about the Disney considering the handmade animation back for the future films. So in 2011, Disney discounted hand-drawn animations and opted for a CGI approach. However, Walt Disney is considering bringing back hand-drawn animated films again at its featured animation studio. Disney Pixar president Ed Catmull said, "We will be making 3D films and we will be bringing back hand-drawn films." A recent investor report suggested that Disney is exploring the idea of full-length film created in the traditional hand-drawn style. This could mark a revival of the classical artistry that made movies like Lion King and Aladdin timeless. And I think that still stands out because this is one of the very core memory of our childhood, growing up and watching Disney.
True.
Right?
And in addition to this, Hajra, obviously, speaking about Disney, I think where you spoke about, the entire childhood, I think, for these visuals that we have shared, for all of those artists who are actually going to contribute towards that, because each and every frame, you have to draw it, so for everybody, please make sure that there's a lot of appreciation. And in terms of appreciation, I do believe or feel that, at times with our spouses or with the relationships that we have, alhamdulillah, may it be our parents, brothers, sisters, what happens is that we tend to forget to appreciate. Absolutely. And when we tend to forget to appreciate, I think that there's something which we call a challenge which arises, and how to resolve those challenges within relationships is something that we'll be talking about, and that too post-Eid. Because Eid pe toh everybody's happy and everybody's, doing whatever they want to do. But post-Eid or probably before Eid, there can be issues probably related to Eid ki shopping theek nahi karai. So there can be so many problems. How can we
or the tag of war, Eid kahan pe guzarni hai, right? So in order to unfold this conversation.
This one's new for you, right?
No, that was not at all. Alhamdulillah, so I've been blessed with very good in-laws. So in order to unfold this conversation, we are very glad we have been joined by Tasadduq Gilani Sahab. He happens to be a motivational speaker. Assalamu alaikum, sir, and thank you so much for joining us.
Walaikum assalam.
So, sir, let's unfold this conversation. Like Shahzad mentioned, we do have challenges because, it's difficult and it takes a lot of time to adjust with the fact that, you have to live with a different person who has different set of ideas, a different set of the mindset. And obviously, in the longer run, or sometimes it causes a lot of conflicts, right, or differences of opinion. How to navigate that?
So, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
So, I think there was a longest ever research has been carried out in this domain, and people found out that the people who actually have enjoyed a longer lifespan or lived a happy and healthy life were only those who maintained the happy relationships.
Okay.
So this is so important, and this is the biggest challenge of life today as well. So it's good thing to understand what goes right or wrong.
Right.
I think there are many few people who think that there are very few relationships we think are actually a good one, and a lot others are not going through a good, pleasant life. So what are the challenges? The challenges are actually when you get in closer to each other, into intimacy or something. So there is a big challenge of communication breakdown.
Okay.
So what happens is that people, instead of talking about ideas or talking about matters, they just get very quickly too personal to each other.
And jump on to conclusions too.
And there is something reference, exactly. There is some reference which is actually continued throughout the discussion.
Tab tumne ye kiya tha,
Exactly.
tab.
And this is a distraction. So
Yep.
I would say communication actually is distracted or has been broken down. And the second thing is, and which is very important, and I think most of the time it's not real, and few times it can be real, and that is trust deficit.
Okay.
We get very quickly into trust deficit whenever we get into relationship. I mean, you think about people who are actually getting closer to each other, are trying to get into a relationship, they trust more than
the ones
normal
already
people.
in a
It
relationship.
starts with the trust.
Yeah.
But as soon as you say, okay, now we are in a relationship or something like that, the first thing that we start, doubting about is we are just breaching the trust, and this is very unfortunate. So I think this is some psychological challenge.
Exactly, but
everybody goes through it.
Exactly, but sir, I think we really need to kind of draw a line where what a healthy relationship is, and because you actually spoke about how there's mistrust, in between a relationship and how we can overcome that. That's the second thing, and the third part is that when there are two people who actually start to live together, what happens is that that things change, very gradually and slowly, and you never realize that probably. ये भी हो सकता है, when I'm sitting down with my spouse or anyone, that I'm just trying to offload whatever baggage I have, and the other might think that hey, he's trying to accuse me or say stuff to me, but rather I just wanted an ear, who could actually listen to me. So how do you think that people really need to be smart on thinking or jotting it down that hey, I'm just here to say what I feel like, and I do not really want your reaction, because that's where the problem starts.
Well, actually, I think the argument actually when starts between two people, like you mentioned, a spouse or such relationship, is basically that causes the problem. The problem is that, I mean, I personally feel, and I am very much clear into that, as whenever you have a financial problem, for example, and you come and try to talk about it, you of course you get a better response, but you don't understand that the other person goes into an insecurity with that. Okay. And instead of supporting you on it, so you will feel that it creates a panic in at home or between the relationship. It's a very, very common thing, and we don't understand. So sometime the person who is taking the responsibility, it's male or female, whoever is going outside and trying to earn for the family, wants to share lots of things while going home, and they do it in the beginning, but later on they realize, no, it's not very easy, because the other person actually, instead of understanding it or digesting it, they get insecure, and then it
causes a problem.
They say how the things will actually go on. So this is one thing. And so financial challenges actually relate to it, and then the relationship actually I mean both parties try to maintain their stakes, their back home relationships. And here I think instead of they develop their own fundamental relation, they actually have a lot of stakeholders, they discuss about them. And
there's a lot of outside noise.
Panic, a lot of noise. So,
but sir, I think one of the important things that we need to discuss, and especially the South Asian context, because we have a very dense familial ties here, right? And we are living in a very communitarian society. It's not an individualistic society, although we are moving towards a nuclear society. But I mean, boundary setting is a very core to having a good and a healthy relationship, right? But how do we explain that boundary setting to a lot of people, probably people who are old age, who might not see it, as a very deceptive thing? They might think that, they are just trying to, not make us relevant into our lives anymore. They are not respecting us. It is considered to be a disrespect, right? And also the thing about is that Islam has given us, the right of the privacy, right? So a lot of times, and we see this anecdote from Holy Prophet Hazrat Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that he went to Medina, and when he built separate hujras for his wives, right? But at the same time in the Quran, Allah Ta'ala also says that, never say uff to your parents when they are in your frail or old age, right? How do we balance this thing it's a very, tight thread to walk on, right? How do you do that?
And this is, I think, the biggest challenge we have today. The thing is, look, what we need to understand, a person who's getting older actually is already announced as very respectable by Allah. So the person who is, like older.
What if that person is problematic?
Not only your own parents, but anybody you see who's older is respectable.
True.
Second important thing is that they have a lot of experience. You know what is experience? Experience and wisdom. Wisdom is actually what you actually gain out of your experiences, and knowledge is something that you learn. So there is no shortcut to experience. So the thing, if we think that our elders are not wise enough, this is a big mistake.
Okay.
We do not understand it. So that is a communication gap, unfortunately. So there's a big benefit of having elders beside us, so they can actually guide us through. They can even help us when we are going through problems like bringing up our kids, facing a lot of difficulty at work
and I've
so
got
on.
a very interesting story, sir, over here at this point of time to share for people who are out there, because I think where you, Hajra mentioned that we're moving towards a nuclear family system. I think in majority cases what we have seen is that it is probably because of the fact that, that people other than the ones who are actually in a relationship cannot maintain that boundary, or, over and over again people have to say that, and it's a debacle and an argument. Now imagine that when I got married, I think it was 13, 14 years, almost 14 years ago, alhamdulillah. So one fine day, a week passed by and I was just throwing my clothes downstairs to my mom. Hey, you know what, I need washing, right? And then, after a week's time, my mom was like, you know what, now you have a wife, you have your own place, and, I think that your wife needs to sort it out. And I was like, great. But then I was like, okay, why would my mother say that? Because, I was only, 22 or 23 years old. So imagine my father was so smart. What he did was that he went to an electronics shop, bought a new machine, brought it home, installed it, and was like, hey, you know what, this is an automatic machine. Make sure that you put your clothes in it and, get it washed. And from there, I think for people to understand that they really need to be reasonable and wise with all of these challenges, because otherwise, if it would have been any other household, it would have been very different. And I've seen it in my case as well. So I've seen how my father would do it for my grandfather or grandparents as well. But I think that's where, it hurts the most. Now imagine that when, our parents are actually reaching towards an age where they're weaker, frail, and for you to kind of convince them on something is something really difficult or challenging. I think, don't you think that it's your spouse's responsibility to understand rather than putting your spouse in a difficult situation?
You're absolutely right. I mean, just mentioning this nuclear setup, but we would love to go, and I think there's a lot of challenge there. Usually I say that when husband and wife, they fight, chudane wala koi nahi hota. I mean, you need someone, the elder is there to make sure that you go apart.
What if that elder is the source of the fight?
Exactly.
Then how do we deal with that?
So this is important that we understand that you have someone who is wise enough, like you mentioned, to give you a guideline how to resolve your problems. So now, as you said, when the parents or anybody in your vicinity is getting older, so you have the responsibility towards them, right?
True.
Today,
and major responsibility towards them.
Exactly, and I was reading somewhere that, for example, in one of our major cities, there were only 2 old houses 50 years ago. Now they are more than 50. And what happens? Old house concept was to help elders, because they go through different health challenges, they need to be taken care of, they get isolated, so people sit together and talk. But here in our country, unfortunately, I've seen cases where the kids, they just throw their parents away, and they even do not visit them for years.
This is absolutely wrong, and I think we should be very receptive and appreciative of our parents' existence. But at the same time, I think it's very difficult to balance between relationship between your spouse and your parents, right? And I think through open communication we can do that more and more. But open communication is something that is preached a lot, but it is hardly practiced, and that is why we find that there's so many problems, right?
Exactly.
Thank you so much, sir, for coming to our show.
And very quickly, in addition to this, but thank you so much, Tasadduq Sahab, and for everybody who's out there, I think that, if your in-laws and if your parents are smart and wise, your relationship will work. Unfortunately, if there are problems in it, please make sure, as Hajra said, that you need to communicate it. At times, it's hard to communicate with your parents or your in-laws, but it's rather best to communicate with your spouse or your partner, because if you both understand the situation, I think things will be better for you.
Right, and now we will move on to another interesting news, that is stray cats in China queue up for the food. A video is making rounds on social media which shows stray cats in China queuing up outside a supermarket, apparently waiting for the food. The video shows the cats patiently sitting in a queue waiting for the daily meal. However, one cat tried to skip the line and move ahead, but that was put back in the place by another cat. Such a display of the discipline, I must say. And according to the supermarket staff who feed them regularly, the cats somehow learned to line up properly. And I think we would wish to see the same behavior in the humans too, right? And especially when it comes to the food dispensation.
Exactly. And not just that, I think even with shadis and food and whatnot, but look at the airports as well. You know, so as soon as we land in Dubai, everybody's in queue. As soon as we're back to Pakistan, nobody's in the queue. So I think cats are actually teaching an important lesson. But we do have an amazing recipe even for today as well, because today I think happens to be Ghaliban, the 4th day of Eid. So, ladies and gentlemen, Hajra has actually got something special for you. Please go ahead, Hajra, mention it.
Kamal Farhan shared her recipe. Let's go and let's take a look. Now, so Shahzad, we've seen that there was a time there was a lot of creator boom, content creator boom. Everyone was going to the YouTube and they were putting up their content now. But I do feel that now we have reached a stage where there's a lot of saturation, and there will come a time when we will move towards oversaturation of the content creation. And because of that aesthetic chase for the likes and for the views, I think it causes a lot of mental burnout. And so I now find that a lot of people, they are instead going to 9-to-5 jobs, although it's getting them, earning them a lot of money because of the social media content creation, but there are lots of side effects to that. So how to navigate this particular side of the social media, and especially with the end of the artificial intelligence, in which AI tools will make it more easier for content to be created. So there is going to be a lot of oversaturation of the content. So in order to unfold this conversation, we are very glad that we have been joined by a TikToker, a YouTuber. She happens to be Ayman Chaudhary. Assalamu alaikum, Ayman, and thank you so much for joining us.
Walaikum Assalam. I'm so excited to be here.
Wonderful to have you, Ayman, on our show and to speak about such an important topic. Now, imagine that with the rise of social media, streaming services, and flow of information, what we have seen is that there's there are abundance of content which can actually lead to many issues. And I'm going to name those issues as well. For example, choice overload. For example, shallow engagement. For example, decreased quality, fear of missing out. Do you think that it actually has an impact and we do feel burnout?
Yes, absolutely. As a content creator, I'm constantly thinking about new ideas, what to make, what I think will do well on my social medias. So I definitely feel burnout sometimes, and I just have to basically deal with that. And because at the end of the day, it's my job. So even if I feel burnout, I still have to try to find a way to be creative.
Right, Ayman, so your content creation area of expertise, I would like to say, is mostly focused on the books, right? So you're very fond of books, and your content also relates to the books, either book reviews or, how you engage with the books. But how do you navigate that, content creation burnout or avoid saturation in your particular niche field, that is, book talks or, content related to the books?
So in my case, if I'm not reading books, I'm not making a content, because since I talk about books on social media, I have to be reading almost all the time so I can make content. So sometimes that takes the fun out of reading, just because I feel like I have to read all the time. But at the end of the day, it brings me the most joy. So when I do feel a sense of burnout, sometimes I just read for myself. Not everything that I read I have to talk about on social media. I pace myself, I take my time. I find joy in the things that I love the most, like watching TV and film and reading various different kinds of books. And no, yeah, just pacing myself and taking it very easy is like the main thing that I focus on.
Exactly, but in addition to this, there's another issue that I kind of come across almost every day. So now imagine that I was supposed to do something,
Right.
and I was going for that. I was opening those applications which actually required me to complete whatever I was doing.
Right.
But somewhere in the middle, I'm going to lose my focus. Yeah? And so all of a sudden, here I am doom scrolling, not knowing what I'm actually
Yeah.
doing. How do you think it actually has an impact on us? Because imagine that every time, if God forbid, I lose my focus, I kind of am not really happy with me that, hey, you know what, you keep on losing focus. So
Yes.
for all of that content which is available, making us lose focus, how does that have an impact?
I think the biggest thing is it shortens our attention span. I think about scrolling on TikTok and Instagram and YouTube Shorts and watching like millions of videos in just like 1 hour, and how I lose interest in a lot of things just because my attention span for whether it be scrolling on social media or doing things in real life is so short. I feel like I watch more TikToks at this point than I watch TV or anything like that. At this point, when I only watch TV when I'm eating a meal. So after I'm done with the meal, I turn off the TV because I feel like I can't focus if I'm not doing something, if not I'm not eating or anything like that. So no, yeah, I think shortening our attention span for um any like all a lot of aspects in our life is the biggest thing that social media, especially like TikTok, has done to our minds.
Right, Eamon, and let's talk about the artificial intelligence, right? So artificial intelligence,
Yes.
YouTube CEO was very particular that, he is working on the artificial intelligence tools that will help in creating more ease for the content creators, right? Whether it's video production, whether it's, bringing the topics, whether it's, producing, it is already doing, the thumbnail creation. But how do you feel this revolutionizing of the artificial intelligence? Do you feel that it will create more oversaturation of the content there? How to navigate, this particular development? Because whether we like it or not, we'll need to learn to live with the artificial intelligence, right? So how do you go about it?
Yes. No, yeah, you're totally right. We have to learn to live with artificial intelligence. I feel like it's everywhere at this point. It's hard to get away from it. In my community, specifically for books, it's kind of like a controversial topic because artificial intelligence is it pulls from so many different things. It's not original. It's not from one person. So, for example, in the book community, sometimes artificial intelligence people will use that to create art or paintings, fan art of like particular books, and that's a really big controversial thing in the book community because it's looked at as something that's not original because artificial intelligence pulls from anything that it can, anything that it has the capability to do so. So no, yeah, it's something that we just have to adjust to because it is so, like you said, like oversaturated on all through social media. I feel like it's the everything that I see is AI this, AI that.
Exactly, but that's exactly what my question is now. Imagine that before, we got to know about artificial intelligence, what we were doing was that we were actually only looking for, things or news or content which was really authentic. But now with artificial
Yes.
intelligence, this is one thing which has nobody ever spoken about as of now, and that is that there is an acceptability of whatever you think you can, produce that content, you can produce those pictures, whatever you feel like it. And we are almost becoming very normal with, oh, this is generated by AI. So it does not really matter to us whether, AI has generated something which is very authentic, the story was original. So whatever we can think now that we can make it. How do you see that, now in days to come, we will be having content which has no reality behind it, no stories behind it. So whatever somebody thought will actually bring it into our face. And people over here are not even in a habit of researching whether some news was original or not. Now imagine the other day there was this video of the President Donald Trump, and he was saying something about one other country and whatnot. And it was an artificial intelligence created video. But imagine that there was this friend of mine, he was so naive that he came up to me and was kind of mentioning that video and showing me that video. No, he actually said that. How do you think that it will kind of reshape, or probably the if I am to coexisting of information and content which might not even be true?
No, yeah, I think honestly it can be kind of dangerous because especially if you are getting your news through AI generated videos, especially about like politics or something like that, and you show it to your friend, and then they figure out, hey, that's actually AI. It's not true. I think it can be quite dangerous because it's not authentic. You don't know what's true and what's not true. Um, AI is like infiltrated in almost everything that we see on the internet. So it's sometimes it's so hard to determine what's real and not what's not real. AI is so smart in which it can show you so many things that seem super real, and it's your job to figure out if it's AI or not. I've been fooled so many times seeing so many different videos thinking that that's real, but it's literally just AI, it's artificial intelligence working to make something seem so authentic. But no, yeah, I think it's especially when it comes to news and current affairs and stuff like that, and AI using or current affairs using AI and stuff like that, it can be quite dangerous because there could be a lot of misinformation.
Right, and Eamon, one last question before we wrap up this segment, and that is, as a content creator, I'm pretty sure you might go through this. That is the, ecstasy of the likes and views. The more the likes and the views go higher, the more you're addicted to it, right? The more they
Yes.
dip down, it affects your mental health, it affects your physical health. Avoiding that burnout and this chase of the likes and the views is causing a lot of people to revert back to the 9-to-5 jobs, right? So, how do you see this content creation boom and the saturation cycle that is now coming up? Does it scare you sometimes?
Oh yes, absolutely. Like when I do get like the highs and lows of if my content is doing very well versus if it's not doing good at all. It affects my mental state completely. Usually sometimes at that point I try to find motivation, whether it be talk to other content creators and friends and just, have a relatable conversation. But, I feel like we're already at a point where oversaturation in content creation is such a big thing. So it's hard to predict what the future might look like. There could be another app that is the new TikTok, the new trending thing that um, creates space for different kind of content. So there's less oversaturation and there's more originality. Um, so no, yeah, that's what I hope will happen in the future. As long as I still have a platform to do so, I still love content creation. At the end of the day, I feel like burnout, it's just gonna happen with any sort of platform that you are
Yeah.
addicted to at the end of the day.
True,
And
true.
Emin, we certainly want people to kind of understand that, that there will be burnout, that there will be,
Yeah.
shallow engagements, and that there will be days when your content might not be liked by a lot of people,
True.
and it's because of the oversaturation as well. But thank you so much for
Thank
your,
you so much.
so thoughtful
Thank
and mindful
you.
insights into this subject. So
Thank you
stay
so much.
blessed, Bete, and enjoy yourself. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Shahzad. Speaking of the artificial intelligence and content, so we have come across this very particular meme, right? Especially making around in the Ramzan tab, right?
Tab,
So,
tabilab, tab, tabilab.
yes. So our team has been kind enough, especially Akbar, to make a package on it. So let's go and let's take a look that, what are the origins of this meme in particular?
Tab, tabilab, tab, tabi.
Yeah, it's a very interesting detention, and it's also tongue twister sort of the thing.
Yeah.
But anyways, we want to engage this content because we feel that memes is an expression of the creativity in which a lot of people are actually expressing the very effective political communication messages, and they're also very interesting and a big part of the pop culture that is now spreading rapidly in the social media. So, how does meme impact their communication strategies and how they are vital aspect of transmitting the messages and the element of virality into that. In order to unfold this conversation, we are very glad that we have been joined by Isha Rehan. Assalamu alaikum, Isha, and thank you so much for coming to our show.
Walaikum salam. I hope you guys are doing well.
Alhamdulillah, so far so good. It's good to have you over here. And just, the background of this tabila, so it actually comes from the GCC countries where there was a king. He actually wanted to listen to a poet. And the poetry needs to be in such a way where if he does not really please the ears of the king, you know, he will be actually killed or assassinated as well. So which is why he came up with such, where the king cannot actually memorize it. So that's really what actually happened. And these were the verses, tab, tabil, ab, tab. So because the king was not able to memorize it, and he was memorizing the earlier ones as well. So all those other poets were assassinated, and he actually saved his life.
Yeah, thank you so much for summarizing the package. So now, Isha, moving on to you, memes, right? Memes are the expression of the, creative liberty. And how do you feel that, do you find it very comfortable, because in a humorous sort of communication strategy, you are transmitting a mass messages there. How do you feel about it?
Exactly. So I feel like as a student of media studies, effective communication is the gist of everything in the 21st century. So we need something that is impactful, memorable, and shareable, right? So which is why I feel like memes play a very impactful role in spreading information, in informing people about local issues, climate change, and even just sharing normal day-to-day activities that are relatable. So I love memes. I think my generation is obsessed with memes.
I mean, we struggle so much, whether to how to pronounce it. So may it be meme or may it be meme or meme or whatnot. So finally we figured it out. But with memes, there's one thing which I've seen, and that is that it's most of the time it's indirect, so we do want to refer to it as effective communication, but how I have seen it is that that it's more like an indirect communication where you have to take the gist out yourself and whatever suits you. How do you think that that memes can actually be used more productively? Because that's a brilliant idea, that they can be strategic communication in the underlying factor.
Yes, okay, so touching on the topic that you touched on before was that where the memes originated from, right? So the term was coined by Richard Dawson in 1979. And he explained it as an idea spreading in a group of people very quickly, right? And then fast forward to the 2000s and 21st century, where social media was given light. So it helped. Memes were defined as funny pictures. So for us, it's something shareable and something light and funny. And the way we can make it more impactful is by understanding the context of the meme, right? So there are in-groups and out-groups. I like to define it in these two specific ways. So in-groups are the people who actually understand the meme and perceive it. They can understand the information being communicated. However, the out groups are the people who don't understand the meme. And I feel like the best way to explain this is that I have a few memes saved for us.
Yeah, go ahead.
So before coming here, I shared them with my friends in my friend group, and they were all so happy. They were like, wow, these are great memes. But when I showed them to my mom, so, she was like, are you sure these are the best ones that you found? So I feel like my mom was the out group, and then my friends were the in group. Because memes can be relatable to specific ages, to specific localities, on an international level, on a local level. So I feel like, understanding the concept of the meme helps spread information
because there's always a context behind it, and like you mentioned, I think this is the language of Gen Z and millennials, and what is the new generation coming, Gen B, Alpha or something like that. But Isha, when we talk about, because memes has a social commentary in them, right? So they are conveying some sort of message in that, right? The one criticism that comes on the memes is that you are diluting the intensity of the message by portraying it in a very satirical way, right? In a comedic way, right? So do you agree with this assertion that har cheez ko mazak mein uda ke you are telling it out, right? How do you feel about it? I know it's a global language, and I know that a lot of people relate to it, and there's some pop culture ideas instilled into it, but there's another side of that.
Exactly. You never know where boundaries can be crossed, right? The line is very thin between funny and offensive. So I believe that being a part of media, you need to be careful about what you put out there. But I feel like for specific friend groups or something like that, it's fine if you share things that are funny, but you need to be mindful and respectful of the boundaries around you.
Thank you so much for saying that, because I do feel at times that, for us to kind of watch those funny accident videos, unfortunately, I do believe that we're getting a little insensitive looking at, somebody probably falling from a bike and just laughing out loud. But not just that, I think this is going to be one of the best as well. Now imagine that there was a time when, there was no WhatsApp, but we were texting, 6 dafa ek number daba ke H or how are you likhna padta tha. So then there was a time when we came up with shortcuts. For example, TTYL. Do you know what TTYL is?
Talk to you later.
Okay, what is LOL?
Laughing out loud.
Yeah, what is ROFL?
Oh my gosh, I don't know that.
Rolling on the
floor,
laughing, you're doing better. I think,
Wow, I don't know if it's going to have
I
a
think that's
test.
great. And same is the case with memes as well. Now, in memes, there's so many things and there's hidden messages, for in-groups, probably they are able to understand at times, but we do feel like as if we are from the out-group as well. But Hajra, I think at this point of time, I would want to ask you this because, you put in a lot of effort, alhamdulillah, for the show and everything. And what you've done is that you followed some certain pages. Which is why you really do not lose your focus. Every time I'm going to come into our group, I'll see, that you're sending a reel or something very important and something which is knowledgeable and includes a lot of education. How do you make sure that, that you're only going to stick to a couple of pages which will actually help you do better?
I think I don't put in that much in effort as much as the algorithm is personalized in that sense, because if I'm, putting up some sort of content, it understands what are my needs and what is my thinking level, which is very scary because it is a smartphone and it will show me the same sort of content, right? And I think one of the expression of the memes of political communication are also the smileys, right? So when we were having this computer mediated communication, smileys were very expression. So memes started from that smiley. So Isha, now coming back to you, right? Smileys, do you think when we are communicating and that smileys can miscommunicate a lot of things in that sense? So how do you feel about it?
I personally fear texting because of the misuse of smileys. So that's why I rather prefer sending voice notes. So you need to be careful. There are a lot of double meanings towards things. And I would like to touch upon the topic that Sir mentioned before, that how can, memes and this sort of communication be spread in a meaningful way. So, you can see a lot of Pakistani business as well using memes to gather a lot of audience and gain a lot of attraction. And on a global level, to spread awareness, it could be about climate change, politics, any global issues going on. So, to say the astronauts that were stuck in space, we forgot about them. But once they started coming back, the news, I don't think no one watched the news in my age, right? People of my age, they didn't. But yeah, the memes helped us realize that, okay, they're coming back and this happened. So it really helps you keep in touch with everything going around you.
Exactly. Thank you so much, Isha, for saying that as well. And everybody needs to be mindful. And I have this very amazing example, I think. The art of storytelling is really important. So imagine that this brand is actually using this marketing technique where a boy actually falls from a 50-story building. And because it's a jeans brand, so what he says is, "Tang toot gayi, lekin pant ko kuch nahi hua."
Oh my God. I mean, they need to rethink about the messages. But thank you so much, Isha, for coming here, for shedding light on such an important aspect, which is the meme and the political communication.
Okay, she's got something for us.
Okay.
I brought some memes for you guys.
Show us the memes, please.
Okay, so this is the first one.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is in regards to, some kids, they don't like raw tomatoes, but then when they get them in the form of ketchup or pizza, so they get really excited and happy.
Wow, wonderful.
And
I think we can play such a game as well for people to understand whether they are from in-group or out-group.
Of course, and I do remember when I was teaching at Berry University, I incorporated an entire lecture of meme as a storytelling, and make sure that, kids are aligned with the new and new form of the political communication.
And I feel like everyone can relate to this one because how time passes by really quickly. Like it was 2019 and we just blinked and look at us. It's 2025.
For this one, we are the in-group. For this one, we are the in-group.
Okay.
All right, one last, please.
Yeah, and this one, so I feel like my generation can relate to this. Since we were, we thought as teenagers that when we would turn 18 and in our 20s, we'd have everything put together. But now at, 24, 25, we're still
I like how
this
mouse is actually using the same shampoo as we do at home.
Yes, it's Jerry from the Tom and Jerry cartoons. Right, so now we will move on to another very interesting subject or the segment. But before that, we have to share a very interesting news. That is a new study suggested whale sings when they have a good meal. So according to a new study, baleen whales sing more when they have an abundant supply of the food. The study published in the journal PLOS once says that the vocals of the whales can be used to measure their health as well as that of the underwater ecosystem.
Wow.
So that is a very interesting news and we will unfold it and save the debate for some other day. But now we are going to talk to a young chap who has joined us in the studio, and this reminds me of the generation gap because, these kids are thinking in different terms and our thinking is in terms of different. So in order to unfold the communication or the conversation regarding the power of the persuasion, how debate empowers young change makers, we're very glad we have been joined by Muhammad Ahmed. Assalamu alaikum, Ahmed, and thank you so much for coming to our show.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Wonderful to have you. It's great. It looks like as if you're already on vacations. Are you?
Yes, I am.
I think that's wonderful. Whose place are you staying at? Your Popo's place?
No, I'm at my father's place, my parents. I'm
Or
at
your
home.
parents'
Yeah.
place and you're on vacation. Well,
Yes.
that's wonderful. So now let's get started. The topic happens to be how debate empowers young change makers. So what's your take on that? Very simple.
So firstly, confidence is something which is very important because, you know, debate is basically all about confidence.
Okay.
You know, confidence is something that makes someone better because there is no use of intelligence if you have no confidence. That's a fact.
Yeah.
And, you know, confidence makes you a good civilian. You know, many people can inspire from you. And, you know, the main thing about debate and all of this is confidence and conveying your message to other people.
And how do you think as a child, you know, as old as you, how old are you?
I'm 13.
So 13 years old. How do you think that, you know, for children who are out there can actually attain this kind of confidence within their personality or have it?
So first of all, we're talking about debate, right? Practice. Practice, you have to talk in front of people. You know, as many people in front of you, the people you talk in front of, that will empower you to build confidence in yourself.
And
Right,
have
and
more presentation skills and whatnot.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And Ahmed appears to be a very confident young chap. So Ahmed,
Mashallah.
how did you build up your confidence?
You know, it
How
all
did you
started in
practice, yeah?
somewhere in 2018, you know,
Okay.
1 week or so before Kashmir Day.
तुम तो तब बहुत छोटे हो गए यार.
Gee, I was in grade 1 at that time.
Mashallah.
The teacher said if anyone wants to do a speech or something like that on Kashmir Day, they're free to do so. So I went to my mother, I told her, Mom, there's a speech coming up on Kashmir Day, should I do it or not? At that time, I was very reluctant towards going to the rostrum and stuff like that. But it was my mother who always encouraged me. She said, go beta, you go on the rostrum and give the speech. So she wrote me a speech for a week or so, I practiced it. And when I completely memorized it, I went on the Kashmir Day, went on the rostrum, just delivered the speech, and all the teachers, they were so impressed.
Right, but Ahmed, nowadays, you know, we are using a lot of social media, a lot of mobile. Do you think mobile helps in developing your confidence? Does it help you in your
Yes,
journey?
of course, we can listen to many speakers, you know, motivational speakers. You can pick up points from them.
Right.
Exactly. And
Wonderful.
not just that, I think what I would want to ask you is, now imagine you spoke about preparation, how you need to speak in front of people, you practice and you attain that sort of confidence. Where do you think that we need to draw the line in between confidence and overconfidence?
You know, overconfidence is something that is really not good. If you're so confident, overconfident, it will.
ये तैयारी नहीं की आपने?
हाँ, तैयारी नहीं की तो
ये हो जाएगा?
या मसला बन जाता है फिर तो।
I think that's a very brilliant take, a very wise take, and I wish I was that wise at his age. Because I think I was more of a bookwormish person. But Ahmed, now we will talk about debating, right? So, do you feel that school nowadays encourage young kids to debate? Because when we were growing up, I don't think so we were giving that much of an opportunity. You know, all our teacher was saying is pado, 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 pado. I think
Yes, these days, you know, co-curricular has been given very much importance. You know, the schools take you in inter-school debating competitions and inter-houses debating competitions. So it's a very good thing.
And it's changing as well now. Now imagine that, you know, that the very concept of debating is actually changing. Now what schools are doing is that they're coming together, joining hands, and students will come from different schools and they will give them a topic there and then. So, and within next 5 minutes, they actually have
Yes,
to,
that
you know,
is
kind
the
of...
parliamentary style of debate.
Okay,
It's very interesting.
So can we do that if we give you a topic right
You know,
now? Just
the
for a
thing is,
minute or two.
I actually do declamations.
Declamations?
Yeah, because there are different types of debates. You know, there are debates, declamations, and parliamentary style debates. I've only done the immune once, and I got the best delegate because we had devices at that time to pick up
Wow,
points.
which is why, we, you know, so whatever you said then and
Yeah.
there, you know, can you please share it with our audiences, how you said it, you know, how you debated? Because there's a lot of poetry in it, there's a lot of messages
Yeah, I
in
can,
it.
if you give me poetry, I'll deliver it right now. Tariq ki dua.
Sure, sure, go
Can
ahead,
you,
go ahead.
do you have a phone or something like that?
Yeah, I do have a phone.
Tariq ki dua by Allama Iqbal, Muhammad Allama Iqbal.
Tare ki dua ji, aa gayi bhai, Tare ki dua. Ji, here it is, and with that we'll actually kind of, you know, log off as a Tare ki dua.
Yes.
जी तारे की ये तरावी की दुआ आ रही है बट अभी तारे की दुआ दूर है मेरे ख्याल
अच्छा,
से
चलिए,
बाद में करें but thank you so much
Thank
Ahmed
you so
for
much.
being with us, lovely to be in
Thank you so much.
conversation with
Thank
you.
you
You're
so
a
Thanks,
fit
sir.
young chap, Allah आपको
Right.
बुरी नजर से
Thank you so
बचाए
much.
and
Thank
keep
you.
at it. Wonderful. Nice
Thank
to
you
meet
so
you.
Thank you so much. And with that, we are ending up a program. Until next time, it's a goodbye. Allah Hafiz. Make sure that you keep yourself safe. Until next time, it's a goodbye.
Good morning.